Gun ownership comes with great responsibility. Follow the 4 primary firearm safety rules. Treat all firearms as if they were loaded. Never point the muzzle at anything that you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're on target and you're ready to fire. And you want to be sure of your target and what's beyond it.
Welcome back to this month's episode of our 35th anniversary video series. Ladies and gentlemen, we're halfway through. Now, last month we talked about I Am Glock, and that's what makes us stronger as a community. Well, this month we want to talk about something that's also very important to us. It's the 4 rules of firearm safety. We're going to talk to people right here inside of Glock and let them show us how they're implementing those 4 rules on a daily basis, whether it's training courses, home defense, or even raising their family. This is also going to highlight National Safety Month, and that's going to show us the importance of firearm safety on and off the range. So make sure you're taking the pledge and always following the 4. So we're here with Corey Denny, who is our contracts administrator, and he's been here for almost 10 years at Glock. So you know how important firearm safety is for us. So what are the rules of firearm safety?
Always assume that a firearm is loaded. Never point it in a direction that you don't know what's behind it. Make sure you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire, and always assume that your firearm's loaded and you don't want to point it so that you're not willing to destroy or kill.
So you have a family at home.
Absolutely.
How important is firearm safety for you with your family in the household?
Firearm safety has been of the utmost importance for me as a career because I worked retail for almost 6.5 years before I came here, and I made a living out of it, and so I wanted to do it professionally. And now that I have 3 young kids, it took a center stage importance for me, and I made sure that firearms are a mystery to my children. My kids know I have firearms, and they know this is what I do for a living. So it has to be the #1 precedence for me and my wife.
Now, having your 3 young children, what age do you think is a good age to start bringing them into firearms and explaining to them what the rules of firearm safety are?
My boys are 8, 5, and 3, and they all know about firearms at the earliest age. My youngest son understood what handguns were, and he knew the rifles that I owned, and I let him see them when he requests to see them.
Right.
So if I have them in my hands, and he can come in and ask questions about them, and I started that as early as he could start asking questions. I didn't grow up in a household that had firearms. My parents weren't against firearms. They just weren't a part of our life. I made them a part of my life.
Right.
So I answer those questions as early as they start coming.
Well, I think as frequently as we deal with firearms in our current profession, that it has to be a main priority in all of our households, whether it's just me living by myself or you with a family. Now, when you have kids and you have your family out on the range, like you're out for just an everyday range outing, going to teach your wife, teach your kids how to shoot, what does firearm safety on the range look like for you?
One of the #1 things is always a situational awareness of where the firearms are and where everyone else who's going to handle them are.
Right.
Especially whether it be the guests you bring with you, be it your family or friends, and other people who are not there with you but are present at the range. Mm-hmm. So making sure weapons always stay pointed down range, making sure I keep the magazines and ammo separate from the guns until we are ready to shoot, and also hearing protection. I've been lucky enough to never have to have any hearing issues, and I really don't want that to be an incident for anyone else, especially working at a gun range as long as I did.
Well, that's good. I mean, like I said, safety is always important, important for us here, and it's important for every single one of us as employees here. So are you going to take the pledge?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Scotty B, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Shane?
Mind if I interrupt you for a sec?
Not at all, man.
So this month we're doing another 35th anniversary video, and it's going to be on firearm safety.
Okay.
And I wanted to pick your brain for a minute if you had some time.
Yeah, man, I got time.
So you being the training manager here at Glock Professional, how are you guys implementing firearm safety into all of your courses and making sure that all of your guys are, following the 4 rules of firearm safety?
Yeah, man, we come in contact with a lot of people, so our goal is to always educate and develop. And we go over it in class. We tell, show, do, and review.
Right.
We walk them through the safety. We actually show them, and then we let them do it. You know what I mean? So we're definitely making sure that we're doing our part to make sure people are properly educated and well developed.
So education is absolutely key in making sure that they understand all the rules of firearm safety.
Yeah, man, I always use the word educate.
Right.
We want to make sure they understand and why we do it this way. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that we hear a lot is that Glocks don't have an external safety, but in reality, we have 3 safeties. Is there any way you can walk us through this to help the fans better understand the SAFE Act?
Yeah,
Safe
yeah,
action
absolutely.
system?
Yeah, man. We actually got something on the PowerPoint right now in our class, and we show this in all of our classes around the globe. So what the Safe Action System is, Shane, and you know this, of course, it consists of 3 independent safeties that's built into the fire control system. What we would consider the fire control system would be the trigger bar,
Right.
the firing pin, and the connector. Those 3 things make the gun go bang, right?
Right.
The safeties consist of the number 1 safety is the trigger safety. It's located on the outside of the pistol. The number 2 safety is the firing pin safety. The number 3 safety is the drop safety. Those safeties sequentially disengage one by one until the gun goes bang. So
Right.
1, 2, and 3, the gun goes bang, the slide cycles, and they re-engage in reverse order, 3, 2, and 1 when I completely get off the trigger and out of the trigger. So the first safety is the trigger safety. The way it works, it's just incorporated in the form of a lever. And that little lever, it blocks up against the frame, preventing the trigger from moving to the rear.
Right.
So I have to actually deliberately put my finger on the trigger, on the lever, and when I press, it rotates down inside the trigger itself, allowing the trigger to move to the rear.
So if there's no activation of that lever, say I pull the trigger on either left or right side, there's no way it can actually go into the frame itself.
Absolutely. I can put my finger on each side of the trigger and press as hard as I can.
Right.
And as long as that lever is not depressed down, the trigger will not move to the rear to disengage the other 2 safeties.
Right.
Okay? So the number 2 safety is the firing pin safety. As we start to press the trigger, that's what's turning the gun on, right? So as I start to press the trigger, this little extension right here, we call that the vertical extension. It pushes upwards on the firing pin safety to clear the firing pin channel. So the firing pin safety just mechanically blocks the firing pin channel. So
Right.
as I'm pressing the trigger's moving to the rear. The vertical extension is pushing up on the bottom of the firing pin safety, and it's going to clear the firing pin channel to allow the firing pin to move forward and hit the problem.
Right.
That's number 2. Number 3 is the drop safety. All the drop safety is, it's a polymer ramp that's built on each side of the trigger mechanism housing. So the very back of the trigger bar, I call it the cross because it looks like this.
Right.
Have a right arm and a left arm.
Sure.
So the arm of the trigger bar sits up on top of those polymer drop safety ramps. The drop safety's job is to prevent any premature separation between the firing pin lug and the back of the trigger bar by not allowing that trigger bar to move back and drop down off the ramp until the trigger is pressed completely to the rear.
Right.
Now remember, when the safeties are disengaging, 1, 2, and 3, the trigger is moving to the rear. As the trigger is moving to the rear, the trigger bar is actually cocking the firing pin.
Right.
Once the trigger bar here makes contact with the angled shelf of the connector here, it is the connector is what actually causes the trigger bar to drop down to release the firing pin.
Right.
Gun goes bang, slide cycles, all the safeties re-engage in reverse order. So the misconception is Glocks don't have safeties. What people mean is that they don't have an external safety,
Right.
like safety
like an
lever.
external thumb safety or
Exactly.
grip safety or something like that.
But here's what I tell people. Some people are very comfortable with a revolver.
Right.
But if you think about it, that revolver, if you open the cylinder up and you load the rounds into the chamber, you close it up to make it fire, you do what? You press the trigger. If you don't want it to fire, you get off the trigger, and it's automatically back in safe mode.
Right.
Well, the Glock is very similar to that. We use a magazine. We put a magazine inside the frame. We chamber around. If we want that pistol to fire, we simply deliberately press the trigger, and it starts to fire. If I don't want it to fire, I get off and out of the trigger, right? And everything is automatically back in safe mode. So
Right.
it works very, very similar to revolver, which doesn't have a manual safety lever.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So it's very, very similar.
Well, what's cool is all of these safeties are built in and they work together, like you said, sequentially. So without one activating the other, there's no way for the next safety to be disengaged for the firearm to ever go off.
Exactly.
So I really appreciate you explaining the Safe Action System to us, and I hope this really helps our fans a lot really understand the Safe Action System itself and understand that Glocks, our products, actually do have safeties.
Absolutely.
And it also shows the importance of safety to us here at the factory.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Banks, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Shane.
Last question. Are you going to take the pledge?
Absolutely, man.
Perfect, man. Thank you again.
All right.
So here to talk to us a little bit more about firearm safety, we have Mr. Chris Lamb. Now, Chris, can you tell all of our fans where you started at here at Glock and what your current position is now?
Well, I started in warranty and made my way over here as a match coordinator in the Glock Sports Shooting Foundation.
So being a match coordinator with GSSF, how do you guys implement firearm safety in all of your matches?
Well, one of the good things is we do work off of a cold range. There are two conditions that you can carry your gun. One is unloaded, slide forward, in a bag. In the bag has to be secured. Another way is slide lock to the rear, no magazine inserted in a holster.
So, you know, with us dealing with firearms every day here at Glock, how important do you think firearm safety is to you?
Oh, it's very important from the time I wake up to the time I go back to bed. I always have my gun on me or near me, so I have to watch it with the kids at the house, with neighbors coming over, anything like that.
Now, with the kids and neighbors, you know, coming to your house, since you mentioned that, how early did you teach your children about firearm safety and how to apply those safety, you know, principles every day at the home?
Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she has her own Glock 44. So we started real early, probably about 5-6 years old, and then she's actually competing in GSSF now.
She's competing now.
She is.
How well is she doing?
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Well, so lastly, what is one thing you would like to tell any new first-time gun owners that we have? You know, especially with everything that's going on right now, we have so many first-time gun buyers and new people coming into the market. So what's one good thing you would like to tell them?
I would say take your training course. That's one of the good things about GSSF membership is you can actually get into the training courses here at Glock.
Perfect. Well, there you have it. You gonna take the pledge?
I take the pledge.
Perfect. So now we have another individual here at Glock, Mr. Blue. Tell us a little bit about where you come from and, you know, what your current position is here now, because you're one of our newest members.
All right, so I'm a new hire as a firearms instructor. Did 22 years in the Army, with the latter half of that being spent in 10th Group Special Forces, where we did a lot of training of individuals around the world. So now I'm getting a chance to train back here in the United States and train my fellow civilians.
So being an instructor now, how important is it to include, you know, the full rules of firearm safety into all of your instructional material and into your classes?
It's very important. You know, safety being the number one priority. You want to ensure that the participants as well as yourself are safe on the range at all times. One of the things we always do is we go over the full safety rules
right
before we start each session, each class.
So with the classes that we have, you know, under Glock training growing, you know, now we have the low profile carry course. You know, when we talk about concealed carry or home defense or anything involving a vehicle, how also important is it to include those safety rules into that aspect as well?
It's very important because you want to utilize the same safety rules as if you were shooting flatline or concealed carry, like you were saying. You want to utilize the proper equipment. You want to use holsters, concealed carry rigs that properly cover the trigger guard of the weapon system. You want to make sure you're not wearing any clothing that will get caught up into the weapon system as it's entering or exiting the holster. When we're talking about carrying firearms in the home or where you store them at, you want to utilize safes, lock boxes. You want to use wire locking systems like the ones that come in the case with the Glock system that we have. And if you have small children, you want to take extra precaution to make sure you're putting those weapon systems in areas they can't reach, as well as having them locked.
And lastly, you know, with all the new gun buyers we have entering the marketplace now, what is one piece of advice you would like to give them?
Seek training. It's not enough to have a firearm. You have to be able to utilize it. Here at Glock, we offer an armor's course as well as an operator's course, which is a very good course to learn how to utilize your weapon in a defensive firearm manner, if need be. You can't have a firearm and not know how to operate it. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to cause harm to yourself and others. So seek training. I would say that's the most important thing. Get training behind that gun.
Get training. There you have it. Well, Mr. Blue, thank you so much. I appreciate your time with us.
No problem.
So ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Mr. Willie Parent, who is no stranger to this video series. Willie, thank you again for talking to us now about firearm safety. So with you being the director of Glock Professional, Glock Training and GSSF both fall under you. So how important is it to implement firearm safety in both of these aspects of your everyday job?
Firearm safety is paramount across the board, whether it's for competition shooting, backyard plinking, whatever it may be. As far as our training and everything to that nature, we have set standard operating procedures that we put out to all of our employees across the board, whether administrative and actually out in the field as match coordinators and instructors, as far as the do's and don'ts. And we, as employees of this company, helping Mr. Glock's customers at various levels, cannot allow any slippage as far as complacency and things of that nature. So our job when we go out there is to have our customers experience firearms in a safe and family-oriented manner, and training in them. So safety is the utmost to everything that we do around here.
Now, from a beginning level shooter all the way up to an experienced shooter, like a competitive shooter, one of your instructors, how important is it for everybody to always incorporate firearm safety into their everyday life on a consistent basis?
Well, considering the vast majority of us are from concealed carry permit holders to shooters, like you were saying, from competition to training, everything in between. I mean, there's no takebacks. Right. So you must keep safety at the forefront of your mind at all times.
And lastly, what are the four rules of firearm safety?
Treat, keep, never, always. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded, even after you've ensured it to be unloaded. Keep your finger straight and off the trigger, outside of the trigger guard till you make the decision to shoot. Never allow the muzzle of your firearm to cover anything you don't want to put a bullet into. Always be aware of your target, consider its surroundings. I know that's not the exact way you have it on, but it's the way I remember it. Treat, keep, never, always.
And are you going to take the safety pledge?
Of course, every year.
There you have it. Make sure and take the safety pledge. Willie, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Shane.
Appreciate it. So as you can see, firearm safety is of the utmost importance, not only for us here at Glock, but for everybody that's involved in the community. So always make sure you are following the 4 rules of firearm safety. If you're watching this video by July 5th, this will be your entry for the prize, which is a Glock 45. It will also be another entry for the grand prize, which we will announce in December. And lastly, in honor of National Safety Month, we are asking you to take the pledge of Follow the 4. For more information, visit followthe4.com, and I promise you're going to want to take that pledge because we have some pretty incredible prizes. We'll see you next month.